Hi guys, Devil Hunter XYZ, and we're back once again with the installment of The Good and the Bad, and I decided to finish up the whole Twisted Metal saga with the last game in the series, as of right now, Twisted Metal. Yeah, that's pretty much what it's called, just Twisted Metal. I guess a lot of people also would call it Twisted Metal 2012. This is the only Twisted Metal game on the PlayStation 3. And of course, this is the limited edition, which came with the code for the Starhawk skin, the Sweet Tooth skin for Starhawk, and then they also have the downloadable code for Twisted Metal Black. But the 2012 version of Twisted Metal, it's similar to that of Twisted Metal Black in terms of like tone and atmosphere, but it kind of goes more of an all-out radicalist feel to it. It kind of breaks the traditional card battling formula from the previous games and kind of goes for something more original. So let's see how well this turns out. Well, for the good of Twisted Metal 2012, at least one thing I can say is I do like the new character roster that they have on the game, and actually it's kind of a bit of a change in how they used to do character selects in the past. Meaning that in previous games you have like an individual character who has some kind of quirk to them, and then they have their own specific card that they use. But in Twisted Metal 2012, there's really only three actual characters in the entire game. I mean, you have Sweet Tooth, you have Dollface, and then you have Mr. Grimm. And essentially, all these characters kind of have their own factions. So yeah, I mean, you have the clowns, you have the dolls, and then you have the skulls. And, well, I guess technically there's also the preachers as well. But I mean, that being aside, there's really only three characters in the game, and really the only thing that actually changes is actually the type of cars that these characters can actually drive. So it's not really having a different character themselves; it's really having a different car. And by that I mean like you have the old traditional cars like Sweet Tooth, you have Darkseid, there is Axel, there's Warthog, and some of the other ones. And then of course they have some of the newer stuff, the more original ones. You have like Roadboat, Kamikaze, you have Vermin, and then you have like the replacement to Minion, which was Juggernaut. So yeah, you have a good variety of different cars, with all their strengths and weaknesses. The second good I will say is probably the story mode, and it goes more than just a traditional card battling game where you're like in a separate area just having to defeat all the enemies in the stage. It goes more than that, and it seems like each depending on how the story goes, because the story actually progresses through the three characters themselves. Depending on the actual stage itself, there's like a specific kind of game mode that you can go through. I mean, it can be the traditional card battling stuff, but then it could also be more of a more of like a racing checkpoint kind of thing. Yeah, or it could be more of like on a time limit. So I mean, it kind of has like a good variety of game modes, which doesn't make it feel stale that quickly. And then the third good thing I would say is probably the multiplayer. You can have up to 16 people playing the game, and honestly, it's actually not too bad. It's pretty fun, and considering there's a lot of game modes there too. I mean, you took the same game modes from some of them from the story are in the multiplayer, but then you also have some additional ones like you have Hunted, where you have a character. You have one player who's basically the hunted, and everyone needs to destroy that one. And then they have an interesting one called Nuke, which I guess the best way is just stealing the team's leader and using it to sacrifice him to send off a nuke. It makes more sense in context. I'm just saying, but yeah, I mean a lot of fun right there, and I mean the fact that you can even customize your own layout of the car, from actual design to customizing like the firing method of the cars themselves. Well, for the bad of this game, well, I guess one thing is probably the stages themselves. Uh, I mean, I do like the fact that the game has stages that are like small to like massive size. I kind of like what they did with Twisted Metal Black, so it kind of has a more of a open world feel for it. But at the same time, they all kind of seem visually similar, so it doesn't really seem all impressive, and it kind of seems muddy at times. I mean, I get that they were trying to go for more of an apocalyptic type of feel to it, but it would have been nice to have more variety on that. Second, I would probably say is the car abilities, the special type of abilities. They do have them in the game, although it's pretty limited. Well, everything is mapped out onto the D-pad, so you have your freeze attack, or I guess in this case they call it EMP. Yeah, you have that. You have mines. You have jumping, shield, rear fire, which I mean that's all nice, but at the same time it's kind of missing some of the other stuff. Like maybe having the massive attack, whatever they called it, and then they have invisibility. That would have been nice if they had something like that. But overall, the abilities, they are not that useful compared to the previous games. Like the EMP attack, it doesn't actually freeze the enemies. I mean, it just stops their car for like a few seconds. And well, the thing is, the attack itself drains up most of your special gauge, your energy gauge, and of course, like having the shield only lasts for like 2 seconds, so only enough for like maybe blocking one attack. So it's not really that useful, honestly. And then third, I would have to probably say, while not specifically related with the game itself or to the game itself, but it's just the fact that you needed an online pass to play the game, and yeah, that was kind of a little bit disappointing, actually. I mean, the fact that you needed an online pass to play. I think even now you still probably need an online pass if you were ever planning on playing the game, which kind of made multiplayer a little bit of a barren at times since there wasn't too many people really playing it, and it was kind of hard to even connect to the game. And at the same time, it was troublesome trying to even stay in the game because a lot of disconnections were happening every once in a while in matches. Well, for the improvements, I can only think of really two things. For one, they need to add more levels, and I think actually a good idea would be if they were to do like remakes or remastering of older Twisted Metal levels. Maybe even so from the first game, since they're both kind of urban based anyway. So why not? I mean, it would have been nice to actually see some older maps. Kind of paying homage to them and maybe have like a little nostalgia trip to it. And I think the second thing would be, I mean, I would like to say maybe get rid of the online pass for it, but at this point, what's the point, really? I think maybe what they could have done at the very least is adding in AI opponents in multiplayer, because then that would make the game a little bit faster when it comes to trying to find teams at the very least, or they could add in some AI players into the teams themselves. I mean that would be nice because it would just make the games go a lot faster, and at the same time maybe have better hosts going on. And I mean, who knows? It just would have been a more better experience if we have not only actual human players but also AI players. Well, overall, I say Twisted Metal 2012, in my opinion, actually did a pretty good job. I mean, they kind of revitalized the whole car battling genre, and it didn't just stick with the same traditional format. They actually took liberties and actually expanded upon what they've done in the past, and they've took a chance on some new things, and I think for the most part it did pay off. I say really just the only fault is just the fact that some missing components from previous games. That would have been nice. Maybe added in some more cars. From previous games, and of course, again, if they could have added in some different levels, maybe fixed up the multiplayer. I mean, it would have been a better experience itself. But overall, though, I'd say it was a pretty good job, and it's something more original. And I would be looking forward to something similar to this if they were ever going to continue with the Twisted Metal series, which I don't know. It's a possibility that it could do something in the future. I mean, it has been no word on it yet, but I would like to see some follow up to this game actually. And I'm pretty sure at this point you can actually find Twisted Metal 2012 pretty cheaply now, since it's been at least It's been at least like 5 years at this point, so I'm pretty sure you could probably find it for like $15, $20. And I mean, the only problem is you would still have to spend, I think, probably the full price if we were going to do the online pass and try to do multiplayer. But that aside, though, I would probably give Twisted Metal 2012. I would give this a final score. I would give it a final score of a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty high for the Twisted Metals in my list. I would say it's still probably one of my top three Twisted Metal games that I would consider playing. But I mean, if you really still want to get started in the Twisted Metal series, I say go for like Twisted Metal 2 or Twisted Metal Head On. Those are probably more the better choices for getting into the genre itself. And yeah, I mean, who knows? You just have to wait and see what the Twisted Metal future holds for us. Alright, guys, this is Delphine XYZ, and until next time.